I was in like drama class, so like you had to go around and explain something about yourself. I was like, oh, I like boxing, and that kind of went around the school and ended up becoming that I was a boxer, not that I just liked boxing. And then instead of trying to like go out and correct the rumor, I was like, well, I'll just become a boxer then, it'd be easier, and I always wanted to do it. So I looked around, and the closest thing I could find was a place called Muskoka Kickboxing, and they did jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. So I started doing both of those arts, and then shortly after, the first season of The Ultimate Fighter came out.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Robert Patton Global Podcast. I'm here with the UFC fighter, good friend, old friend, Kyle the Monster Nelson. Thank you for joining me, sir. How are you doing today?
Hi, doing great. You know, training camp's going well. We're 2 weeks out from UFC Vegas on February 4th. So, yeah, can't complain.
Are you in Canada? Are you in Vegas?
No, still in Canada. We're going to fly to Vegas in about a week, roughly a week, and then I'll be there for the fight, and then my fiance is coming, so we're going to stick around for a few days after just to kind of relax and maybe do some touristy stuff in Vegas, and yeah,
you've been there a few times.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time there, and my fiance has been there once before for a little bit, but I don't think she got to do too much, so yeah, we'll relax and check out some Vegas things.
How is your training going?
It's going really well. This fight we had like 2.5 months notice. So this has been the most notice I've had for a fight at 145 pounds. So it's been much easier to get down to the weight. Whereas I think that was a lot of my problems with some of my other fights at 145 in the UFC. Just like short notice and stuff. So I really had to cram in,
weight cut.
Yeah, and I think that was something that I never fully recovered from. So I'd get through that first round okay, and then it would kind of catch up with me. And whereas this time around, we've been able to do it, the smart way. We took our time. So now, like my muscle endurance, my cardio, everything is gone through the roof compared to before.
Yeah, I know. Like, I obviously watch all your fights, and you'll start off in the first round just like dominating, and then I guess due to the weight cut, it could be an issue with the gas tank and stuff. But you're like this is like your fifth fight, right, in the UFC?
This might be my sixth.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you're like practically a veteran. I mean, basically in the UFC, so you know what to expect. You've been there, done that. A lot of those jitters from the beginning might also like not be as much of an issue. Although this is I think this is probably your biggest fight ever.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like Superboy is super skillful, but also just like he carries a lot of hype with him. Like he was, one of the biggest prospects for a little bit. He's knocking everybody out. Then he had that fight with Cub Swanson that's now in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was on a big tear, and then had to take some time off, I believe, for an injury, and then I think he had to do his mandatory military service for South Korea. So this will be kind of his first time back in a little while.
Well, you'll have to give him a surprise, a rude awakening, or something like, because I feel like, like your back's against the wall, you're fucking fighting again, you're trapped in a corner, and you're going to have to just give him that wild monster, devastating power.
Yeah, and I think Doho is going to be the perfect guy for that, because he loves kickboxing and he likes moving forward and stuff. So I think we'll meet in the middle of the ring, and it'll be an exciting fight for a little bit, and then we'll see him go to sleep.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. So that's February 4th, and it's a fight night. You're in Vegas, and I was just watching the fights last night, and it's always exciting. I watch like every single UFC card, pretty much from top to bottom. Are you going to be in the prelims, main card?
So it looks like the main card At one point, I saw on the UFC's official website they had me down as the co-main event. So I'm not sure where it's going to end up. Sometimes I still shuffle it around a bit, but I would think just because of the hype behind Doho, I'll be, higher up on the card.
Yeah, and the main card is the Black Beast, right? What's his name? Or is that?
Yeah, Derek Lewis. Yeah,
Derek Lewis versus Osterim or something like that. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, might be Spivak.
Yeah, Spivak. You're right. So, and Derek Lewis, he's fun. I mean, but he keeps losing, which is kind of crazy,
Yeah, lost a couple now, maybe at least his last one for sure. But yeah, I mean, before that, he was always, super exciting guy. I think he's got the most knockouts in the UFC or something like that. But again, sometimes he's fought for the belt a couple times, against Daniel Cormier and then against Francis, I believe, and he's came up short kind of in those high profile fights, or at least for the title. But outside of that, I mean, he's knocked out, a ton of people in the UFC. He's always exciting. He's good on the mic, knows how to talk and stuff. So,
right. What was I going to say? So, since your last fight, have you changed anything about your training other than having more time to train in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, we're always adding skills for sure. But, definitely having the early start of the weight cut for this one at 145 is going to make a big difference. And then we've just catered my training camp more towards Doho's style. So I think that's gonna really help, whereas some other training camps, I just kind of kept training all around in general, whereas this one's been very specific towards my opponent. And I think that'll show through as well.
Yeah, because some people don't watch anything about their opponent, but I could see he dips down when he, after he throws a punch, or you feint and he dips down, and then you can knee him in the face or whatever. I don't know, but I have no idea what his style is. But you guys have been watching tape and studying it, breaking it down, type thing.
Yeah. There's definitely some very specific things he's good at, but there's also some pretty big holes that my skill set, I think, is perfect for exploiting.
Yeah, and I feel like you might be just bigger. I mean, are you bigger than him? What's your weight? Oh, go ahead.
I think we're the same height, 5'10", 5'11". But yeah, I think as far as size and power and stuff, I'm definitely going to be, coming in as the bigger guy, stronger, more power. And then definitely when it comes to wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I think I have a much higher pedigree. So not that that's going to matter a whole lot, because I think we'll spend this fight standing. But, if he does decide to try and shoot or wrestle or, trying to get into a bit of a grappling battle with me, I think he'll fall short even faster in the grappling realm than he will in the stand-up.
Yeah. I mean, you've been doing this. I know we started working together back in 2013, 2014, and you were already an established, I guess, amateur fighter. But we might have gone over this in the past, but how did you even get started in fighting?
So when I was 14, I mean, I'd always wanted to be a boxer. I watched Rocky when I was 4 years old, and then I wanted to be a boxer. But I'm from such a small town that's not really close to any big cities, that it wasn't until I was 14 and I was in high school, and I think we were doing. I was in drama class, so you had to go around and explain something about yourself. I was like, oh, I like boxing, and that kind of went around the school and ended up becoming that I was a boxer, not that I just liked boxing. And then instead of trying to go out and correct the rumor, I was like, well, I'll just become a boxer, then it'd be easier, and I always wanted to do it. So I looked around, and the closest thing I could find was a place called Muskoka Kickboxing, and they did jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. So I started doing both of those arts, and then shortly after, the first season of The Ultimate Fighter came out. So that was the first time I saw MMA, UFC, all that. And I think that's basically what I'm already doing. I'm already doing the groundwork and I'm doing the stand up. So, I'd stick with this as opposed to go into boxing.
Straight boxing, yeah. And boxing, I think you made the right choice. Boxing, I mean, even though it's kind of making a comeback right now, I feel like obviously MMA is just growing at like a weed and like all these different organizations. I was even watching the PFL recently because there was like 3 weeks in a row where the UFC wasn't airing, and the PFL was doing their world championships. Nice mug. But and they give away $1 million to the winner of each category. Yeah. So that's pretty sweet.
It sounds like there's some big money over there in the PFL, so that's great for the sport. I know like a Canadian lad I've trained with a bit, Olivier Aubin-Mercier, he won the 155-pound belt and the $1 million and stuff, and he was in the UFC, did well in the UFC.
Yeah,
kind of lost a couple fights and then got cut and then went over there, and next thing you know, he's making $1 million. So that's great for him.
I know. I watched him. He did well, and I watched because they had all the weight classes. I don't know if they all fought back to back to back on the show I was watching, and to see that whole organizational structure where it's like you get points over the course of the year, and then it's kind of work your way towards this championship fight, as opposed to just having a belt retained until they lose it, which it's interesting.
I don't fully understand it, but I do. It does seem a little bit more, I guess, like a sport, whereas like they'll have like the season or the preseason or whatever, and then you get enough points in that and you make it into the whatever, the playoffs or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it seems pretty cool, and it, I don't know, so far it's worked out really well, and they got a lot of good a lot of good competition there.
Yeah.
And sounds like they're getting views and stuff. So yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. I'm like, Francis Ngannou might go over there, and fucking Jake Paul supposedly signed with them. I'm not sure if that's true.
Yeah.
So it could be a rivalry with the UFC and with Dana White and his most recent scandal. I'm sure it's not going to turn out to be anything to, negatively affect the UFC overall, but just, it's like these little opportunities for another organization to step up. And I thought it was Bellator. A lot of people we know were fighting or do fight in Bellator or have fought or whatever. And I thought Bellator would be, like the biggest rival, but it seems like PFL kind of jumped up over them.
Yeah, Bellator's been around forever, and it seemed like they were always kind of nipping at the heels of the UFC, but could never quite put it together. But yeah, now especially in North America, PFL is coming in pretty big. But there's also one championship over in Asia, which I think for viewers, just because Asia is so big, I believe they get like some of the most viewers because they get like millions of views just because the population and stuff, and obviously like Bushido and like warrior stuff, samurai culture, all that is very big over in Asia. So there are definitely some pretty hardcore fans.
Yeah, and Mighty Mouse Johnson, he's over there, and Brandon Moreno just won again the flyweight championship last night over Davis and Figueiredo, that quadrilogy, which was were you watching that last night?
Yeah,
that was exciting. And we sponsor Moreno, so to have him win the belt is pretty sweet. But I was just texting with his management, and I was like, he needs to fight, just because like to solidify himself as one of the greatest ever, he's got to beat Johnson or Cejudo or something.
Yeah, those are definitely the big names at 125. Like when you think of who is the best ever, it'd be Johnson or Cejudo. And Cejudo's kind of retired, but maybe he's coming back, or who knows what's going on there. He's going to come back heavier, but Johnson's still competing. So there is, I don't know how far-fetched it is, but there is a a possibility or a chance of him competing.
Yeah, he should come back. I'm glad he left because I feel like he was so dominant in that division that it was almost boring to watch. And I wouldn't even watch the fights. I'd be like, okay, I guess it's over because he's going to win. And you want to see a fight like a competitive fight, not this complete domination. Me, anyways. As a fan, I want to see you do a complete domination tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, February 4th. But in general, if I'm not terribly aware of the fighters, I like to see like a really evenly matched fight, or because then you feel bad for the people that are losing. And I felt bad kind of for Textera last night because he was. They should have just called it like a couple rounds earlier because like even if he won, I was saying getting kicked in the head that many times isn't worth being champion to me. I don't know, like it was pretty brutal.
And it was the same for the Lauren Murphy fight earlier on against Jessica Andrade. Like that was there didn't really see a hope for Lauren to pull that off. And again, the stakes on that one, like it was just it wasn't a title fight or anything. It was just a regular fight, and she wasn't really defending herself. She was eating so much damage. I definitely felt like, I don't know if the ref, I feel like could have stepped in, but I think it was definitely on her corner. I think her corner maybe should have, especially going into that third round, they should have talked to her and been like, "How you doing? What's going on? Do you think you can defend yourself?" And then maybe look at throwing in the towel because she took a lot of unnecessary damage, and without really a hope of winning.
I know. Yeah, Andrade is a beast, and I don't even know how Murphy. I think Murphy had like a higher ranking than her, which I don't know if they switched weight classes because Andrade was just champion recently.
Yeah, I think Andrade, I think she's fought in like 3 different weight divisions now. So
okay, well, and maybe the fact that they were in Brazil, because I'm like, why? Yeah, what is going on with these refs not stopping it? These are like beat downs, and Lauren Murphy looked like she got run over like twice by a Bigfoot truck, and I was feeling pretty bad for her, and she's pushing 40. So that's a little bit past your prime, and fighting Andrade, who's 31, and I think you're 31, right?
Yeah.
So you haven't even hit your prime, in my opinion. I feel like 33 is right around like the absolute prime fighting age, and so and you started at 14, so you will have been doing it for basically 20 years, just under. That's a long time of putting all your efforts in one direction to become an expert. You're like an expert, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you think about like doctors and stuff, go to school for 7, 8 years, 10 years maybe.
Yeah,
I've been in school for like 17 years so far. So
so you got a PhD in this particular field, and okay, so you started in kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. And when you're sparring, do you have good sparring partners, or what how are you arranging
definitely. So we got Mike Malott as one of my training partners, who's worked with SHEATH before, spent a lot of time at Alpha Male. He's in the UFC now. He's at the welterweight division, a little bit bigger, but he's somebody I get to work with a lot, and obviously another high level guy. So that's great. And then just like my coaches and stuff at House Champions, between Lynn Halmagine and Adrian Woolley, and then we travel a little bit to another gym to work with other guys that are in like Bellator and PFL and stuff like that. So so I do get a lot of good training just staying local here in like Southern Ontario.
Yeah, 'cause that's important. And I just joined a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym again for like the 6th time. On and off, I've been training for 24 years but mostly off, not training, but like on and off. And I'm a white belt. I'm like this at this new school, we have legit Brazilian. They're like from Brazil, barely speak English instructors, and it's really the best, most technical instruction I've ever gotten. And then, but I really just wanted to go for the, rolling, we call it rolling, right? But sparring, and we got the gis, but so we do like 45 minutes of instruction, not even, more like 55 minutes, and then like the last 5 minutes he's like, okay, spar, and we get to spar, and that's my favorite part. But you, as a UFC fighter, I feel like fighting against these other high level fighters, if you were to spar at 100%, that could be dangerous. But can you describe what that's like and kind of how you make sure not to get hurt or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. Like we can grapple and wrestle and stuff, pretty much at 100%, 95%. I mean, we're obviously not picking people up and slamming them on their heads because we all have fights and stuff coming up. But like for wrestling, jiu-jitsu, we can still go, really hard. When we get to like big glove sparring, so like 16-ounce boxing glove sparring, then again, we can still go, a solid 80%, because we got a little bit more padding and stuff. And then when we do the small glove sparring, then we got like 6-ounce gloves, so it's getting pretty close to, like the fight style gloves. So you have to pull the power back on those. And also, like, your thumb is exposed, some of your knuckles are exposed. You don't want to be accidentally cutting somebody when you're sparring with those. But again, we can go with the small gloves, do 50%, 50 or 60% power with those. While we work in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, that we can go at again like a 90-95%.
You just made me think of Kevin Strickland, who apparently he only spars with the small gloves, and I enjoy watching his fighting because he just like stands in the pocket and does his like just straight basically boxing, but with these 6-ounce gloves. And when you're doing that, like sparring with the 6-ounce, are they 6-ounce gloves, whatever, the MMA gloves?
MMA, so the fight gloves are 4-ounce.
4-ounce.
Yeah.
And so you were just saying like you guys will be sparring, but is it boxing or is it like boxing with takedowns and grappling?
Yeah. When we're wearing the 6-ounce MMA sparring gloves, then we'll do the whole thing. So just MMA rules.
Yeah. Okay. And you do that with like Mike Malott and these various guys. Are they trying to imitate, like for right now, Superboy, I guess, Do Ho Choi?
Yeah, for the most part. Now that we're getting closer to the fight, we'll start finding people, because like Mike's a couple inches taller than me, I believe. So he's a little almost too tall to I guess emulate Superboy. So we'll get guys that are like my height, a little closer to his style and look like him, even if they're not in the UFC. But if they're similar to him and they're good Muay Thai fighters or they're good kickboxers, then we'll bring them in, and those will be like my main sparring partners where I'll do some of my harder rounds with.
Okay. So what's like, what's your typical day like right now training?
So we'll usually do like a sport specific in the morning. So sometimes that's wrestling or pad work or something like that. Then I'll get my hour of cardio in around noon or 1 or 2. And then we'll get the evening training in for another sport specific that's around an hour or 2 hours. So it's, we're usually 4 to 6 hours of training a day. And we try and do that 6 days a week. And then on Sunday, I'll just do my cardio.
What and hang with the family and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, try and get a bit of relaxation in and recover a little bit.
Yeah. Do you do like yoga, meditation, any kind of other like techniques, massages or?
Yeah, definitely massages. I try and get at least one massage a week. My gym, Muskoka Martial Arts, we have a gentleman that does massages out of the gyms. He's got his own room there and runs his business, so I get a massage from him. I also work with the Sport Lab in Huntsville, so they'll do like the electric acupuncture, all that kind of stuff. They also help with my nutrition and stuff. But so that way I'm getting like two really good kind of rehab sessions in. Then we also, when we go to the gym, when I do my cardio, the gym we go to has a hot tub and a cold tub. So I'll try and do that a couple times a week.
Tell me about the cold tub.
So I started like at the UFC PI.
Yeah.
Have you been there at all?
I have not. I want to I was gonna actually. I forgot to go. I just wanted to go look out. Stand outside of it and like kind of get a feel for where it's at. But I haven't been there.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever in Vegas, while I'm down there and bring you in,
Nice.
That's where I first saw like the hot tub, cold tub, and actually got to experience it. And yeah, I really like it. Again, especially with the hot tub, cold tub. I don't know. I haven't really done just cold.
Yeah.
Without the hot.
Right.
So that might be worse.
Yeah.
I did do at the PI. They've got the cryo chamber.
Oh yeah.
So I went in that, and I can't remember what that goes down to. But again, that's really cold. But it's different because it's just like air cold. So
it's so much easier
or whatever.
Yeah, to me the cryo thing is like cheating, and you're in there for like 3 minutes, and you barely notice before it's over. Like the water is like
it hits you instantly.
Yeah, and it's brutal. And just going in without being like getting the hot treatment first, you got to kind of warm yourself up or something. You got to like do some push-ups or do a quick jog, or maybe not or some breathing exercise, the Wim Hof thing or something.
Yeah.
But it is way easier and maybe, and I don't know, more therapeutic or better for you to go from the hot to the cold, the conversion therapy, something like that. I forget what the word is, not conversion, but it's like the opposite or whatever. So how long do you figure you stay in the cold once you get in there?
So I usually do around a minute to a minute and a half, again, depending on how hot or cold it is. It also depends on where it's at in my day. Like if I go in the middle of the day and I've got training again in the evening, then I always make sure I finish hot. So I'll do whatever, 3 or 4 minutes in the hot tub, and then cold tub, hot tub, cold tub, hot tub.
Yeah.
And that way, my body isn't trying to warm up while I'm going into another training session. Yeah. But if I do it at the end of the training day, then I'll finish cold and then kind of let my body, work through warming itself up. Yeah.
There's supposed to be like all these like benefits or whatever. And to like the layman, regular guy, you get like this euphoria. It's supposedly like almost like, doing the drugs, for instance, because your body releases all of these chemicals because it thinks you're going to die or something. It puts you, it is, you go into like almost a state of shock because you're just so cold, and then you have to relax yourself and control your body with your mind and stay in there because you'll be fine. And supposedly you're supposed to stay in for a good 3 to 5 minutes, which I have a hard time doing myself. I'm more like a minute and a half type dude, but it also depends on the temperature.
Yeah,
it does create a like a feeling afterwards where you're kind of like more energy, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and I find I get like some mental clarity too. Mm-hmm. And then just like as far as like sore muscles and stuff, kind of helps flush everything out, especially when you're training a ton back to back.
Man.
It just kind of helps your body cycle through all the lactic acid and stuff and get you ready for the next session.
Yeah. How is it, like with you have 2 sons or?
Yep.
Okay. And how is, training 6 hours a day and then your new fiance and the boys, you get to like spend quality time with them and everything?
Yeah, so it's a little tricky right now, just with the way things are set up. I see them every other weekend for like
Yeah.
a day and a half.
Yeah.
So then we just kind of, just focus on them. Um,
Maximize that time.
yeah, so I'll just make sure because it's a day and a half, I'll get like my training in before that, and it's on the weekend, so it's a little less rigorous. And then on like the Sunday, I'll have them, and then maybe I'll take them to the track or something, or I'll just sneak out for a run quick and
How to
yeah,
get
and
your
then I can
cardio.
hang out with my fiance and stuff, and then yeah, that's back to family mode for the rest of the day.
Okay. By track, I thought you maybe meant like dogs or horses or racetrack when
Oh,
you're talking about to go run and
yeah,
they can
yeah,
just
just
be
yeah,
there
like
with
a
you.
track and field track.
What do you how far do you run each
So
like
it's
ish?
more so about time for me. So it's
Okay.
usually I'll do an hour, and then again, like some days if it's a Sunday and I've had a hard week,
Oh, an hour.
it
Wow.
may be a slow hour. Maybe 8 kilometers or something.
Okay,
I don't know what
that's
that'd
not
be in.
nothing.
It'd be like 4 miles, 3.5
Yeah,
miles or something.
something.
And then if I got energy, then I'm like, yeah, I'll try and burn it off. Build the gas tank, build the cardio, and then yeah, then maybe 10, 11, whatever kilometers.
Okay. Because I'm thinking of like the Diaz brothers and Cheeto Vera and a lot of people, I don't know, those two come to mind though, and they just like, do triathlons, half marathons and shit like that too. And that really can help at the end of the, in the fourth and fifth rounds or whatever, third
Yeah.
rounds. So what other type of cardio exercises is that like besides, I guess you just training in general is probably pretty rigorous.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like sometimes like if my knees are getting a little too sore from running too much, I've done a bit of swimming this camp.
Okay.
Um, and again, same, work a little bit more like full body muscles and stuff, but still definitely working on the cardiovascular system. And then a little bit of like elliptical or airdyne bike type of thing.
Yeah, that bike, the Aerodyne bike is a beast. This is always
Yeah.
fascinating to me how much weight people cut and and whether I fasted the other day. It was Thursday, fasted. I had like a little bit of protein shake and some whatever, but I lost like 10 pounds in one day, essentially. The next morning I woke up. Yeah, the next morning I woke up 10 pounds lighter. Now, by the end of the day, I gained it all back. It was very strange. So, like, how much are you cutting, or what do you normally weigh? Like, if you're not cutting weight.
I don't want to give too much away before the
Okay.
fight, but it's over 180.
Oh, holy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And see, that's mind blowing to me because, well, but not really because I lost like 10 pounds in one day. And my wife, we did the same thing. She fasted and then she lost 1 pound. So I think with women, it's like harder for them to cut weight or something. I've heard. Is your fiance a fighter or anything? Or not?
No, she just started doing jujitsu back in April, so almost a year ago. So she competed in her first jiu-jitsu tournament
Nice.
a little while back and got bronze, and she's looking forward to doing some more jiu-jitsu tournaments. But yeah, she's just gonna stick with that. She's not gonna try MMA or anything.
Go pro, yeah. I'm like a straight up white belt, no stripes. What are you in jiu-jitsu? Are you belted and stuff?
Yeah, like I took like 10 years off of gi jiu-jitsu, so I wasn't getting graded for like 10 years. But I'm a brown belt.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, that's like right before black belt, right?
Yeah.
That's the last one. And do you train with gi jiu-jitsu now?
I do a bit of coaching in the gis, then I'll roll and train a little bit. But especially like in fight camp and stuff, I try to stick to to no gi just for the sake of, being ready for the fight.
I know it is a strange like contrast. That was the contrast therapy. That was the word I was thinking with the hot and cold. But
yeah,
I've always rolled no gi. I never had gi because it's like this in a real fight, unless you're, the guy's wearing a suit and tie or something, they're typically going to be wearing a t-shirt, you would imagine, and you can't be grabbing their collars and sleeves, and that's all we're doing with the gi. But I actually really like it, and I'm really glad that I'm going, because now I'm not really gonna probably ever get into a fight anyways, and now we're not rolling around all over, like sweating all over each other, and you got at least some level, and I don't know, it's just a different level of like technicalities and stuff, and I like the grabbing the collar and the grabbing the sleeve and pulling them down into guard. And with Glover last night, he was trying to take down Jamal Hill, and he couldn't grab him because they're all slippery and sweaty and shit. And that's also somewhat unrealistic, because typically you're not going to get into a fight with somebody just wearing shorts and no shirt.
Unless you're at the beach or something, maybe.
Exactly. Love the beach. Have you been? I went to the beach like 2 weeks ago because I live in the mountains here, and I was fucking going crazy with the sun going down like at 4:30 at night, and like we were having these super short days, and it's cold and dreary. And I went to the beach in Southern California for 2 days, and it was so nice. Have you been to the beach recently?
Well, I don't even remember the last time I was at a beach.
Yeah,
I guess I went to Abu Dhabi there in like 2020 to corner one of my training partners. So I was at the beach there a couple of years ago.
What was that like at Abu Dhabi? That sounds interesting.
It was nice. It was hot. Like it was. Yeah. I don't know what it was in Celsius. I mean, in Fahrenheit, but it was like 50 degrees Celsius. That would be like 120 Fahrenheit or something. Like
yeah.
It was really hot.
That's where, I was in Iraq when I came up with the idea for SHEATH, and I believe they're right in the same climate. But Abu Dhabi, I believe, is way nicer. Is it like a super city? Is it like super, like, what is it?
Yeah, like because we went during like the pandemic, we were just on Fight Island. So we didn't really get to do anything in Abu Dhabi other than be on Fight Island.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've heard like Abu Dhabi and Dubai, like those places kind of have some excess money. So they do some pretty crazy stuff with it.
Right. Everybody's driving Lambos and shit.
Yeah.
That's like their beater car.
So you're thinking about doing any SHEATH gis or anything?
Gi. No, but maybe. I'm going to just keep rolling. We have a lot of fight gear, just no gi stuff, like the shorts and the rash guards and stuff. And I have them sitting in this bin. If I haven't sent you any, I need to at least send you some, just because I have it here and it's been sitting here. Gi, no, but I thought you were going to ask, am I thinking about joining in a tournament? And I wouldn't mind doing that, because just for something to kind of work towards, and I don't even
have a goal.
Yeah, I don't need to win, because I'm 44. I'm not trying to impress anyone, but just for the fun. I imagine it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and like jiu-jitsu is pretty good with like the age groups. So like once you're over 30, you're in masters, then over 35, you're like masters 2, and like so you won't be going against like an 18-year-old killer or anything like that.
Right. So. Yeah, and I was training on Thursday. The guy we were doing, just some techniques and stuff, and I could tell he was like really strong. And then when we started to like grapple and spar, the coach switched him with this bigger guy, and of course he goes and like puts on his wrestling headgear, and I was like, oh, okay, he's a wrestler. And wrestlers are fucking like stupid strong. Did you wrestle? in like high
So
school?
no, I started with jiu-jitsu, but I have more of like a wrestling kind of style or
Yeah,
mentality.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah. That's why I asked, because it seemed like you might have had that sort of foundation, but they're all coming, to jiu-jitsu. It's not necessarily the other way around. So the dominant sport or um, martial art is jiu-jitsu, but people that have wrestling, they have like a smooth transition, I guess, from someone who's never done either, obviously.
yeah,
And
yeah. Like wrestling is great for control and all that, and building mental toughness and like physicality. Yeah, the problem with wrestling is like if you go against somebody that knows a guillotine, then kind of this great art of wrestling becomes like nothing.
yep,
With
you
the
just
a
stick your
simple
head right in
beginner
your arms.
submission. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but once you get a little bit of jujitsu with wrestling, then yeah, you've got something deadly.
yeah. The guillotine. I'm. It's really hard to finish. I mean, I feel like most people that know what they're doing can get out of that, but every now and then somebody will get one, and it's
Yep. Yeah, I think there was one even last night
maybe it was
in
in
the
the prelims.
prelims, maybe or something. But yeah,
I had a couple. I had actually. Typically, I either have people come over and watch them, or it's just me and my wife watching them. But I watch it every night, and we haven't had people over for a long time. But last night I had quite a few people over, so didn't get a chance to like fully watch all of the fights. But it was there was like the Terrence McKinney knockout where he got like
yeah,
scissor kneed in his
neck. It
carotid
looked
artery.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that poor dude. I felt so bad for him because we've sponsored him too, and I was like, no.
yeah. He did really seem like a big up and comer too.
Yeah,
He
he
was doing
was.
really well.
Yeah, and then he lost to Dobson or something
Yep.
in a close fight. And then I think he won his next fight. But last night he looked like shit. Like from the get go, I was like, or either that other dude was just really good.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like Terrence, he's a big guy too. So I wonder how that weight cut goes for him. Maybe he had a bad weight cut as well.
Yeah, yeah. Or so and you know, James Krause. Betting on these people, for instance, and you like maybe something about an injury, maybe something about their personal lives that's kind of maybe they're losing sleep at night, or there's all these variables that go into a fight that a lot of people don't think of, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So he might have broke up with his girlfriend or fucking whatever, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But I imagine that the weight cut. We work with Raquel Pennington sometimes on and off, and she's 5 times now. She's on a 5-fight win streak, which I'm like, wow. And she has a mental coach. She was talking about in her last after like the interview after the win, and I was like, a mental coach. I was like, that is interesting, and I've never thought about getting one for myself, although now that I'm saying it, I'm like, because the mind can be so tricky and like fuck with you and fuck up your whole life in a sense if you're having some stress and you're not dealing with it properly. And you can go to a therapist, and that's one thing, but like a mental coach is interesting. Have you ever like sports mental coach? Have you ever done anything like that?
I've never done it, but I know a few different guys that have gone to like sports specific mental coaches to because I know some guys have a hard time with the anxiety or the stress.
Yeah.
Again, I think because I started so young, like when I was 14, and like I trained for like 3 weeks, and then I went to my first jiu-jitsu tournament.
Wow.
And then I did 80 or 100 jiu-jitsu tournaments, and then I started doing kickboxing and then amateur MMA. And so I think I competed so much that I was able to build up such a strong mentality that I haven't run into that issue. But I can definitely understand how if somebody just started training, like they're 20, and then they do like 2 amateur fights, and then they turn pro. Like you're going, from nothing to, some pretty intense, very hard sport.
Yeah, the bright lights.
Yeah, and then very little
crowd.
mental prep. Whereas I had so much competition and time to kind of hone my mental strength.
Yeah, you look so comfortable out there when you're. I have these mental images of like, typically in the first rounds of your fights, and you'll like knock some dude down. You're fucking like put your arms out and just like look like you own the place, and so that has to be an advantage in a lot of kind of respects to the fighting, because I mean that's such a huge part. Like the physical, you hear about all these fighters who like they dominate in the gym and then they go and fight in the UFC and they just like get kind of suffocated by the pressure of it all. And that does not seem to happen.
Some guys, they do great in the training room and don't fight well, and then there's other people that are the other way around. They may not be the most technical and they don't do great in the training room, but as soon as they're in the fight and the lights are on, then they kind of excel.
Yeah, and because a lot, I mean, you have the mind obviously, and that, but then just your heart. You got to fucking have the heart to win.
Yeah.
And some people might not have that killer instinct, or just I don't know what it is. I've been in a lot of fights as a kid, and it's been quite a while since I fought, but I would never give up. Like Textera last night, Glover, for one thing, he wouldn't quit, which I kind of wish he would have at some point. But then on the other side with Jamal Hill, I'm like, you can just stop hitting him, because it's like almost mean at this point. But you can't not finish the fight. You got to finish the fight, and
you got to keep trying to finish. And so he did his job.
Yeah, go for the kill. I was actually I never really followed him much, and now he's the champion. I was really impressed with his like humility or whatever, and kind of like classiness and victory. I like that. I thought it was
like, I mean, if you saw him like at the beach or something with his shirt off, like you wouldn't be like, oh wow, that guy's that guy looks like one of the best fighters in the world. He's got these weird thumb tattoos, and he doesn't look like he's in insane shape or anything. But I mean, he's been taking out some of the best in the division, so it's crazy.
I know, like, so he's like John Jones at this point, and taking over that torch. And John Jones, we'll talk a little bit of fighting, versus Cyril Gahn. That's going to be crazy, because I almost feel like John is greatest ever and all that, but also he just had like this physical gift of badassedness, and he could just maneuver his way to wins. But I don't think he's ever fought anyone as kind of versatile and swift, kind of on his feet, like Cyril Gahn. What do you think? What do you think about this fight?
I think Cyril, the only knock on Cyril is obviously his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu. But he has the size and the athleticism, and obviously like the footwork and the striking, which is great. And I think he probably beats Jones in those areas. But Jones is a great wrestler. Now that he has this size, seeing what how Francis Ngannou was able to kind of out wrestle Cyril, I think Jones will be 10 times better at wrestling than Francis. True. So
I forgot he had that wrestling background. I think he went to like NCAA, like wrestling Division I. Okay. I'm thinking about Ngannou like not fighting Jones, but I guess it's Jones would probably murdered him.
I think he would have wrestled him. I would have did kind of the same thing that Stipe did in the first fight. Kind of wrestle him, wear him out and stuff.
Yeah, and Ngannou doesn't have. I feel like he started fighting at like 35 or some shit. Maybe that's a little off, but
it was definitely late in his career for sure.
Yeah, so he's just riding his size, and when you're that big, I think he had to cut to 265 or something. So that huge advantage, it's like, okay, you're not really like this technical fighter, you're just a giant.
Yeah.
And he has some skills to make sure he doesn't get wrestled and whatever. But that as a smaller, slow, non-athletic guy, I get irritated with people that are just born these giant freaks that, it's like being born a genius or being born rich or something. It's like you didn't have to do anything. So I'm not impressed. I'm not as impressed with stuff like that, whereas Jones, he also he's athletically gifted, but he trained for his whole life and to get where he's at and stuff. And so, and like guys like whatever, I was going to say, you've been, working at this for 20 years almost now. And it's like you put in the work, like Michael Bisping or something, and it's just like, I want to see these guys win. Whereas if you're just born some like LeBron James, it's like, okay, well, you could fucking barely try and be one of the greatest. So that, again, doesn't really impress me. But I'm really looking forward to seeing you fight February 4th. Doo Ho Choi, we can get that W and, stop his little hype train and put some of that hype on you. Because that's what happens when you beat these guys, is you get to absorb their audience or crowd or whatever. And so I'm really excited to see that. So just keep doing what you got to do and fucking stay focused on that. And I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited to check out some of the SHEATH shorts and stuff. And
but we'll send you some shorts, and we have a lot of new stuff. And I think we sent you something recently, but we'll definitely send you all of our latest and greatest items we have in stock here. It's been, we've still been growing. I mean, the fact that you were like part of the Kickstarter back in 2013, which this is our 10-year anniversary, 2023. And, we've been growing and growing, and so grateful. And, last year the economy was a little bit funky, but we're still like, where a lot of companies kind of either went out of business or had like really difficult times maintaining that growth, we were able to be relatively stable. So we're very fortunate, very lucky, and I really appreciate all your support over the years.
Yeah, thank you. It's been it's been a long ride. Yeah, glad to be a part of the team. Yeah,
for sure. I just remembered you used to ship our Canada orders and stuff. That's funny.
Yeah. I used to be the Canadian distributor. Yeah,
but you got to focus on this career, and you're doing great. I'm really proud of you, and I'm looking forward to see you on February 4th. So, and thank you for coming on and talking to me again. You're probably one of the most returning guests we've had over the years. So we'll have to have you on again next year or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be cool to do it in person sometime down in the States, so we could sit down and do it.
I know we've never actually met in person, but for sure we'll get it done. And thank you again for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will be watching on February 4th.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kyle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.